Oh my goodness, okay. So I'm just going to go over some announcements really quick. They're the same announcements I went over last week, but we're just going to do it again. On the back of your card, there is the date. It's October 7th. It is a Saturday, and we are going to be having a movie night at Haley and Madison Benson's house. It's going to be really exciting. We had you sign a sign-up sheet last week, if you weren't here last week, which I think is just you. If you want to go, you can put your name on that list, just so that we know who all is coming. I think that's like all the announcements I have. You don't have to announce the bridge, it's fine. The bridge on Tuesday is starting, and that's fun. Not for any of you guys, but for you guys, college-age kids, and Madison and Nolan, not you guys. College-age kids, you get to go. I think actually all of you go except for Grace. So, Grace, if you want to go. It's going to be great. Okay, everybody, you have another sheet, that paper sheet that I had last week. And I have a predicament that I need to talk to you guys about. Because with Alyssa, when Alyssa was here, we did like 3 messages, and then we did a 4th week. And our 4th week was always discussion. We obviously have a very small amount of kids right now, and I don't think discussion is being overly effective. If you think it is, that's great. So I want you to put on that sheet what you want to do 4th week. Okay, so maybe it's not discussion, maybe it's something else. Maybe it's worship night, maybe it's whatever. I don't know what you want to do. I will specifically say I do not want to do parties. I don't want to do a party every 4th week. That's dumb to me.
Amen.
No. So we're not going to do that. Maybe once in a while, but not every week. Okay, that's dumb to me. So if you have an idea, for something to do, then please write it on there because I'm at a loss. So this week is our 3rd week, and then we're starting next week, next series. So I'm super excited about that. It'll be good. But that's all the announcements I have. And we're going to sing to Eli, because his birthday was yesterday. So, Eli, would you please come up here so that we can sing happy birthday to you, even though it's belated. Okay, if you want to come sing to Eli, please step up on stage, please. So, all right, please. All right, happy birthday, RYC style. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Watching online, I'm sorry you had to hear that. So anyway, we're just going to go over a quick recap of what happened last week, which was, we talked about Esther. I don't know about you guys, but I love that story, and it was really great. If you guys want to watch that, if you want to go over that again, it is on our Facebook page, it's on YouTube. Just type in Faith Over Familiar RYC, or you can go to the RYC channel, or go to the RYC page on Facebook, yada, 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 all that stuff is there. So, can anyone tell me, and it's okay if you can't, any of the 3 points from last week about Esther? Can anyone tell me any of those? Nope, okay.
You're here for purpose.
What was that?
Realize you're here for purpose.
Realize you're here for a purpose. Way to come in clutch, Weston. Okay, anybody else on the second point?
Be willing to go into the unfamiliar.
Yeah, okay, nice job using your resources and notes. Okay, be willing to go into the unfamiliar. And then, mac and cheese and broccoli, that was from Daniel. Well, that's good. Food references, they stick. Okay, well, the 3rd point was be willing to die to yourself. So we talked about Esther. She was 14. She entered a beauty pageant. Then at 15, she became queen of Persia. And then she had to go before the king and save all the Jews, and that was pretty great. So that's what we talked about last week. And then be willing to go into the unfamiliar. God doesn't work in the comfort zone. How many of you can say amen to that? God doesn't work in the comfort zone. And then some point, which I really loved, was to lean on your faith family. And I love that our church is called Faith Family. And then 3rd point, be willing to die to yourself, letting your plans for your life to die and to live out God's life for you. Okay? So pretty good. We got that. All right. So this week, our message is called Faith Over Future, and I'm really excited about this one. When I was preparing, when I first found out that I was going to do this, I wanted to do Esther, and I told you guys that last week. But then I was like, okay, well, who else do I want to do? It was like Daniel, and then I was like, and Mary, okay? And I know Mary is usually a Christmas story. That's usually when we hear about Mary. And I think it's funny because Mary's story is one of the most well-known stories, like, of all time, but it's not even about Mary. Like, it's about Jesus, but, like, Mary's story, we're like, yeah, the story of baby Jesus, but it's Mary's story. Like, she gets overlooked. She's just like, oh, yeah, no, forget about her. We got to pay attention to Jesus, which is great. But I want to pay attention to Mary and not to the Jesus part of it. You know, how Mary was in relationship with God. That's what I want to look at. So, she's very popular, but not popular, which is kind of an oxymoron, and I thought it was pretty funny. So, again, Mary, she's 14 years old, same as Esther when she did the beauty pageant thing. She's 14, and like I told you guys, that's like 7th and 8th grade. And I told you guys I was like shriek-worthy. I wasn't a cute 8th grader. It was bad, whatever. But in these days and age, 14-year-olds, they were counted as women, which I think is ridiculous because I'm like, you don't even know half anything, lady. But back then, I guess they did, so that's cool. So she's betrothed to Joseph. She's going to get engaged to him. It's great, and she's going to live happily ever after. But actually, I scratched that out and I said she's not going to live happily ever after. She's going to live simply ever after. Because she wasn't rich, she wasn't a queen, she wasn't overly prominent in the village. Her only life plan, her only life goal was to marry Joseph and to start a family. And that was her whole life. That was her plan. That was all she wanted to do, was get married, have kids, and live life. That's what she wanted to do. So simply ever after is what she wanted to do. So then angel comes, okay? So this angel comes. And this is just funny to me, okay? So I imagine me, like little 8th grade me, like sitting in my room, just chilling there. And then this big honking angel comes in the room, and I'm like, what the heck? Like, angels are not like babies. They're always portrayed as babies. I don't know why. If you go into the office upstairs, there are literally babies with halos and wings. And I'm like, this is not what an angel is. You know, angels are like 10 feet tall. They're big, they're booming, they're warriors. It's kind of why I wore my warrior shirt. That's pretty cool. Yeah, this is great. So they're big, they're warriors, they're great. And so this angel comes and he's like, yo, Mary, rejoice. The Lord has found favor in you. And I was like, I can't imagine that. Like me just chilling out in my room and being like, yeah, cool, and, you know, whatever, listening to my music or something. And then big angel comes, rejoice, Amanda. I'm like, okay, yeah, woohoo, yeah, all right, cool. What's that happening? And he's like, the Lord has found favor in you. And I'm like, okay, great. I don't know what I did, but great, that's cool. So Gabriel came and he was like, so Mary, Lord has found favor. You're supposed to be rejoicing. It's great. And because the Lord loves you so much, He's going to get you pregnant. And that's what's going to happen. You're going to have the Messiah. You're going to have a baby. And I'm, excuse me? I am 14, sir. Like, no, that doesn't work. But that's what he said. He said, you're going to have the Messiah. And in the NIV, it says she was confused and disturbed. And in the NLT, it says she was greatly troubled. So Mary wasn't just like, okay, that's cool, you know, and that's kind of how we portray it in the Christmas story. We're like, yeah, you know, Gabriel came, told Mary that she was going to have a baby, and she was like, okay, and then she had the baby, and they went to Bethlehem, and then they were put in a manger, and then Jesus came, and he came to save everybody. That's kind of how the story is told. But, like, she was confused and disturbed and greatly troubled by this information. I mean, who wouldn't be, okay? Like who? I don't know about you guys, but if an angel came and was like, God's going to make you pregnant, like, I'd be like, no. That's a little weird. But anyway, so that happened. So then she goes to tell Joseph, right? And Joseph's like, yeah, no. No, I'm not believing that, no. So he's like, okay, I'm going to leave her. But he was going to leave her quietly because he didn't want to disgrace her, all this stuff, whatever. But then God was like, Joseph, no, this really is me. It's okay. It's good. You know, you don't have to leave her. And he's like, okay, God, I guess. You know, God told him, all is well. It's good. And then in a few months, they go to Bethlehem, have Jesus. in the barn, in the manger, and we all know that story, right?
Right.
Okay, y'all are quiet this week. Where are my whoops? Okay, there you are. You're alive. Great. So our key verse this week is Luke 134, sorry, and then Luke 1:38. I wanted to do both of them. So we're going to pay attention to 34 right now. And Mary says, "How will this be?" Mary asked the angel, "Since I am a virgin. This is impossible." But we do that in our life too, don't we? You know, God's like, "Hey, I want you to do this." And I'm like, "What? No, that's impossible. That's impossible. I can't do that. I don't have the right stuff for that. I'm not qualified for that." But the greatest thing about this is we serve a God who doesn't believe in impossible. There is no impossible with our God. How great is that? Can everybody just say amen?
Amen.
Like amen. Okay. So Philippians 4:13, everybody knows this. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. It doesn't say I can do all the easy stuff through Christ. It doesn't say, you know, I can do things that are a little spectacular but not really. I can do all things. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. All things, impossible things, like be pregnant with like while being a virgin. That's spectacular. That's impossible. That doesn't work, but it does because it's God. So I want to tell a story real quick. And Trinette knows this story. I know that for sure. Probably some other people do too. But I know Trinette knows this because she's connected to this in some way. But it's about my mom. And my mom was at the Y one day, and she was riding the bike, and there was this old man riding the bike next to her. And she looks over, and this guy, he's like sweating, and he's busy. He's like an older man, and she's like, "Oh, this guy, he worked himself really hard, you know, he worked himself too much." And then the guy just goes, and he died. He died on the bike, right next to my mom, in the Y. And that's what happened. And she like looked at him and was like, "What?" And he wasn't breathing, he had no pulse, he was dead. This dude he was dead. And so she takes her phone and dials 911 without realizing it. And then she like starts screaming in the Y. She's like, "In the name of Jesus, in the name of Jesus." And that's what she's doing. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, so I'm on the elliptical over there, right? And I got my earbuds in, and I start hearing somebody screaming over there, and I'm like, what? Like mom's just over there on the floor, "In the name of Jesus." Like, what is that about? You know, I don't know how I would react to that. But that's what she was doing. And she looked up at God, and she goes, "You better not make me look stupid." And like, that's what she said. And so she's doing this. And then this guy, he wakes up. And he's like, you know, and then the ambulance comes, and they're like, "Yes, sir, you've had a heart attack. We can see it in the monitors," and all this stuff. They're like, "We're rushing you to the hospital right now." They take him to the hospital. They do the echo, and there's no sign. There's no sign of a heart attack. There's no sign of anything. That's impossible. But it happened because my mom said, "In the name of Jesus." Right?
Yeah.
That's impossible. Like, so I wrote this, I said, it is impossible to wake somebody up. Waking up a dead person is impossible, right? And I was like, okay, it's not impossible because you can use the defibrillators, you know? But like, okay, I can't just look at a dead person and be like, boom, okay, you're awake. But I can because I got God.
Amen.
How cool is that? That's, the impossible doesn't exist. We serve a God who does not believe in the impossible. So, Mary believed the same thing. Mary and my mom are a lot alike. I realized this while reading about Mary. It's kind of funny because my mom's name is Shannon Mary. So like, how cute is that, you know? So Mary and my mom are a lot alike. And Mary believed the same thing, that she could do impossible things through God. God has a plan for us, and sometimes that plan seems impossible. But God doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the called.
Good.
So Mary, she definitely did not have the ability to have a child. Not without Joseph, you know. She couldn't just be like, "Bam, baby." You know, she can't do that. But with God, she can. It's that same thing. I can't touch that dead person and say, "Bam, you're alive," but I can because I got God. It's that same thing. It's that same thing. And so Mary definitely didn't have the ability to be pregnant, but God qualified her. He called her, and He's like, "You're going to bring the Messiah, and now you are qualified. Now you have a child. Now you have the Messiah growing in you." And that's pretty cool. And she just accepted that. Like, she was like, well, okay, you know. So she goes on to say in 38, that's the second part of your key verse, says, "I am the Lord's servant," Mary answered. That's how she answered. You know, and like I said, if some angel told me, "Amanda, you're gonna be pregnant," I'm gonna be like, "No, I am 19. No, you know, I love babies, but no, like, no, it doesn't work like that." But Mary says, I'm the Lord's servant. I'm the Lord's servant. So I want to take 3 points, and I want these points to, I want us to embody Mary, how Mary does these. These are things that we need to learn. That Mary portrays, that Mary just, she gets it. She's 14, she's 5 years younger than me, almost 6 years younger than me. She gets it. She gets it. 1, this is the first point, okay? Our plan is not the same as God's plan. Our plan is not the same as God's plan. God's plan for our future and our plan for our future are totally different. If we live our life for Jesus, He will make us do some stuff we do not expect. I did not expect to be here, to be doing what I'm doing. I didn't. I never did. I never thought I was going to be a youth pastor. My parents ask me all the time, do you think you're going to be a youth pastor? You think you're going to do it? You think you're going to be on the worship team? You think you're going to do this? And I look at him and go, no. And my dad looked at me, he got so mad at me once. He goes, you didn't even pray about it. And I was like, I go, Dad, I don't have to. I know I don't want to. Like, that's what I told him. I was like, I don't want to. And he was like, oh, he was so mad at me. But to this day, I still have not joined the worship team, okay? I'm just saying, maybe that's next step in life. God's still working on that one in me. But it wasn't Mary's plan to be pregnant before she married Joseph, and definitely not to have a kid by herself, like without Joseph. That definitely was not her plan. Like I said earlier, her plan was to live simply ever after. To become Joseph's wife, to have kids, and that's all she. She did not plan to be like, I'm gonna get pregnant without Joseph before my marriage. Like, what? What? That doesn't make any sense. But God's plan is not the same as our plans. So every day, I just find this amazing, okay? So every day, for like at least 7 months, okay? And I know it depends on the woman. But every day, for 7 months, she woke up, and she could see this baby belly. And she probably was asking, God, is this really you? Like, is this really something? Because I know me. I know how I work. I know how my brain works. And I'd probably be like, I probably took some weird, I ate some weird olive oil. Somebody did me wrong. Something's wrong. Like, this ain't the Messiah. I got a weird dream. I don't know what happened. That's what I would be doing, right? I'd be like, there's no way that this is happening. It's impossible, right? It's impossible. Every day, for like 7 months, she had to wake up and be like, God, is this really you? Is this really your plan? People are criticizing me. People are looking at me funny. People are like, oh, I know what you've been doing. Yeah, sure, it's the Messiah, sure. That's what people are looking at her like, But we can't get so locked in our plans, or we'll miss the plan God has for us. We'll miss the plan that God has for us. Again, at college, if I had been there, and God says, okay, Amanda, I need you to leave. I need you to go back home. And I'd been like, no. Nope, won't do it. Ignore that. And I'd stayed in college, and I'd still be there now. Somebody else would be hired. Somebody else would be preaching. These messages wouldn't be getting across. And like I told you last week, you're here for a purpose. It's not a coincidence that you're here. It's not a coincidence that I'm here. This has to happen for some of you. I don't know why. For some reason, you have to be here tonight. You have to hear this message. If I had denied that, I would have been locked out of God's plans for me. I would have missed it. I would have missed what God had in store for me. Mary's whole plan, her whole plan was to live simply ever after. But God wanted to just like flip her plans around and make it go backwards and be like, okay, first you're going to have a baby, then you're going to get married, then you're going to have your own kids. What? That doesn't make any sense, but that's what God's plan was. She just wanted to live a quiet life, but God said, no, I will reward you, and I will make you known. I will make you known. 2,000 years later, and Mary's story is one of the most well-known stories ever. 2,000 years later. She was not a queen. She was not rich. She was not prominent. She was not anything. She was like a lowly person, like living in this tiny little town. Like, she wasn't anybody. But God made her somebody. That's what God's plan was for her, was to make her somebody. 2,000 years later, Mary's name is like, everybody knows it. Saint Mary. Like, everybody knows that name. Her story is the most well-known. But like I said earlier, a lot of times we miss her out and we're like, yeah, Jesus. But her name is the most well-known. And Mary was living in the natural. But God wanted her to carry on for years and years and years and years and years to come. Our plans and God's plans, they're not the same. They're not the same. You can't get caught up living in the natural because you don't see what He sees. You don't see what He sees. He's got such amazing plans for you, but you gotta accept the fact that your plans and God's plans are not the same. You have to say, your will, not mine. Mm-hmm. I used to say this all the time. It was usually in worship. I'd say, God, I don't want to live my life if I'm not living it for you. God, I don't want to live my life if I'm not living it for you. And that's a good thing to say, right? That's a good thing. That's good. But then I was like, you know what, God? I don't want to live my life at all. I want to live yours. I want to live the life you have planned for me. I don't want to live the life I have planned for me because it's crap. My life sucks. When my plans, they don't work out. They aren't good. But I want to live your life. That's the life I want to live. Grab God's life for you rather than the life you want with God in it. Grab God's life for you rather than the one you want with God in it. Okay, so second point is to continue to trust in God even when it doesn't make sense to you. Can everybody say to me? Can you? To me? To me. Y'all, where are you at? You asleep? Wake up.
To me.
Yeah, thanks, Amy. To me. Okay, God's plan doesn't make sense to me.
Amen.
Continue to trust in God even when it doesn't make sense to me. It makes sense to Him. He's got it. He's got it. And He sees you running around. He's like, oh my gosh. Can you... Child, what? And we're like, oh my God, we don't know what's going on. And we're like freaking out. And He's like, oh my gosh, child. Come on. Come on. Let your faith be stronger than your future.
Amen.
Yep.
Let your faith be stronger than your future. The desire to make it work out. Where we're like, me. I got to make this work. I got to figure out what I got to do. I got to become a doctor. I've got to do something. I got to go to this college and I got to do this and I got to please this person and this person and this person. Because everybody's looking at me. You've got all this artificial pressure that society makes.
Right.
There's no way. You don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Sorry. You don't know what you're doing. I didn't know what I was doing. I went to Truman. I loved my school. I loved my friends, my teachers. They were great. But God was like, nope. Nope. And I was like, what? What? Home? Really? I gotta go home and be that person? I gotta do that? What? Because my parents, my whole life, they're like, yeah, Amanda, she's gonna be making the most money, and she's gonna be the smartest, and she's gonna be a doctor, and she's gonna do this and that and that. And I was like, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna be a doctor. It's gonna be great. And then I came home and I was like, Mom, Dad, no. That was really hard for me. I think He's still working me in that. And I was saying, yeah, we'll just take a moment, okay? Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so Mary didn't expect answers. She said, okay, God, your will. Your will. Your will. I'm your servant. That's what 38 is. I am the Lord's servant. Do you guys get what servant means? Because I think it says it a lot in the Bible, but we don't really pay attention to it. We're like, oh yeah, old book, old words. That's what it is. Servant doesn't mean I have an 8 to 5 job, and then I come home and talk to God for an hour, and then, that's that. It doesn't mean that, I live my life, and for an hour at, Sunday church, and an hour at Wednesday church, I say, hey God, what's up? Let me do your will. Being a servant to the Lord is every day, every hour, every minute, serving the Lord, making His will be done, not yours. If you think of like handmaidens and I don't even know, maids or whatever that are like in the Queen of England's house and stuff, like, all they do is serve them. And they're like, here's your food, and here's your clothes, and here's what you're doing, here's your itinerary for the day, here's this. Their whole purpose in life is to make that person's life easier. And for us, it's to serve Lord. So whatever He's saying, you say, okay, yes, sir. Okay, yes, sir. You want me to go here? You want me to talk to this person? Hey, how you doing? My name's Amanda. That's what we're called to do, to be a servant. And that's what Mary was. She totally walked in faith. There wasn't anything that she did that wasn't in faith. When God said you're going to carry the Messiah, that's a big deal. Okay? Can you imagine? That's a lot of pressure. Not just, oh, hey, I need you to carry this baby and this guy's not around, so here you go. No, I'm going to make you carry the king of the world, who's going to save the whole world. You're going to carry him. That's a lot of pressure, right?
Yeah.
But she didn't know that also meant she had to travel 100 miles on the back of a donkey in sweltering heat with a baby bouncing on her bladder. And, that probably took a long time. It was probably really nasty. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. She didn't know that meant she was going to go to Bethlehem and they were going to be like, hey, sorry, we have no rooms. Go sleep in the barn with a cow. She didn't know that's what that meant. Like, what the heck? What the heck, God? This is a king. What do you think you pamper me a little because I'm carrying him, No, she didn't know it meant any of that. But even when it was happening, she was like, okay, God, your will, not mine. Amen. Your will, not mine.
Yep.
More importantly than having a baby and putting him in a manger that she didn't know about, she didn't know that's how it was going to happen. She definitely didn't know that meant the cross. She didn't need to know the answer. She trusted implicitly in what God had for her. Continue to trust in God, even when it doesn't make sense to you. When Jesus was crucified, the most gruesome kind of death he could have had, she still trusted in God. That was her son. That was her son. That doesn't make sense. What the heck, God? He's supposed to save everybody, and he just died. That doesn't make sense. But it did. To God. God knew what was happening, and she trusted him. She trusted him all the way through it. All the way through it. Even after all of this, though, Mary continued to serve the Lord and the purpose he had given her to be the mother of the Messiah. So, I'm going to talk about a story that's real sensitive to me. My brother Aaron, he's a great dude. I love him. He got in some trouble while he was in college. He started drinking. He started doing a bunch of drugs. He had a bunch of sex. He got into really bad stuff. And then he got sentenced and convicted and went to prison. And he's still in prison. My brother's in prison. And I look at that and I say, God, what the heck? What the heck? How does that make sense? How does that make sense? My dad is a pastor that slanders his name, that ruins Aaron's name. That doesn't make sense to me. But you know what? Aaron is closer to God than he has ever been.
Amen. Yep.
He is closer to God than he has ever been. And God said, this makes sense to me. It doesn't have to make sense to you. You don't need to know the answers. You don't need to know the answers. I've got this. And Mary trusted in that. Mary walked in that. She walked by faith and not by sight. That's so hard to do, you guys. That's so hard to do. But she walked by faith and not by sight. Even when life wasn't making sense. Even when your plans seem like they aren't working, they're falling apart. You're like, what the heck? You have to trust in God. You have to get that. Get that from Mary. Trust in God. Walk in that. Go back to point number 1, Our plan is not God's plan. It's not the same. God has the plan, and he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing, but you have to let your faith be over it. Faith over. Put whatever you want underneath the bottom. Faith over doubt, faith over fear, faith over future, faith over familiar, whatever you want to do. Put faith over it. That's what we have to walk in. That's what I'm trying to get across in this series. This is good stuff, you guys. And I'm not saying, hey, come fluff my ego, but I'm saying this is what we need to realize. We are never going to be able to do God's purpose if we're not letting our faith be over it.
Right. Yep.
If we expect to live our life with God in it, we're not going to get his will done. We have to live his life. Let us die. Say, no more to that. I don't want to live that life. I don't want to live my life. I want to live yours. I want to live what you have in store for me because it's way better than what I have.
Amen.
So point number 3. God's promise never changes. Mary knew this. Even through everything that she went through, she knew what God had promised her. She knew. She knew that God had promised that this king of the world would come to save it. She knew that. And after he died, I'm sure she was like, what the heck? Why? Why? But she held fast onto that. She was like, okay, God. Okay. There's a sailing metaphor that's like, you know, if you're on like tossing seas, you know, and you're getting seasick, you're supposed to just like stare at the horizon because it doesn't move. It never moves. It never shifts, it never changes, it never does anything like that. It's just constant. So when, you know, waves are huge and like tossing you up and over and whatever, you're supposed to look at the horizon. Just stay there because it's never changing. That's God. That lighthouse, that you know, safety, that's God. That's what God is. God doesn't make our road easy. He doesn't make the waves calm down, but He makes us strong. If it was easy, I know me, and I'd be like, oh God, I got this. Hold up, I got this. I can do this part. You know, I would totally turn away from God because it's easy. It's easy. I don't need Him. God doesn't make our road easy. He makes us strong. He makes us strong enough to do it. Mary's road wasn't easy. The literal road she took to Bethlehem was not easy. But also her road of, you know, raising up the Messiah. She could have lost Joseph because, you know, she was pregnant now and he didn't do anything. So he's like, you know, she could have lost Joseph. She could have been a single mother. She could have been persecuted for having a child out of wedlock. But she focused on God's promises, on His plan for her. She could have given up, but she kept moving. And she focused. She focused on the horizon. She said, okay, I know what you have for me. She kept moving. She kept looking towards Him. And not what was going on around her, not the circumstances around her. Raising Jesus, I don't think it would be easy. Okay, you guys know the temple story, you know, like they're walking around the village and they're like, hey, Joseph, where's Jesus? And he's like, Mary, I thought you had him, sorry. And he's like, oh no, we lost the Messiah, we lost the King of the world, crap. You know, like we gotta find him, like run it. Like, okay, losing your child, that's scary in the first place, but you lost the King of the world. Like, uh-oh, be like, Jesus, God, can you bring another one? Can you help me out here? Like, I lost the first one, you know. So then they go and they find him in the temple, and he goes, lady, don't you know that I should be here? That I should be in my Father's house. Like, that is a sassy child. Lady, don't you know I should be here? Come on. Like, that's conviction, man. That's conviction. Jesus, like, little baby Jesus, he was sassy, you know, and he's like, hey, don't you know, like, that would be hard, okay? That's probably why they named Mary a saint, because she had to raise baby Jesus. That's why she's Saint Mary, because she raised baby Jesus. And he was a stubborn kid. But her purpose in life was to be the mother of the Messiah, and she couldn't focus on anything else except for what God had asked her to do. That was her plan. That was what she had to do. That was God's plan for her. And she was like, okay. She knew Jesus came to save the world, and that's what she held on to. That's where she looked. She held on to that truth. She held on to that. That was the only thing that was stable. The only thing that is stable is the Lord. Everything else, literally everything else, is subject to change. Your relationships, not just like dating relationships, your relationships with people, your parents, your relationships with teachers, your relationship with yourself. Okay, so financial places, that's subject to change. You don't know what's going to happen, you know. Your living situation, literally anything is subject to change except for the Lord. He's that horizon. So when the wave is calm, that horizon's not moving. When the wave is huge, the horizon's not moving. That's God. That's what we have to hold on to. That's where we look. We can't focus on how Jesus came into the world because we see it as imperfect. He came, you were born in a barn, with a smelly cow, you know, a sheep. She was alone. She had no one there with her except for Joseph. And she was pregnant, so he hadn't seen anything like that yet. You know, and he's like, there's a child coming, okay. And that's all Mary had. That's imperfect to us. That's like, what? What kind of like delivery is this? Like, this is the King of the world, and he was born in the barn, but you know. We can't focus on the way Jesus came into the world. We focus on God's promise that he was the king and he was going to save you. On his plans. Mary let her faith overcome the natural. She didn't pay attention to everything that seemed like it was going crazy. She held fast to God and God alone. His promise was her only anchor. What do you anchor yourself to? That's a hard question. I know for me, a lot of it is my friends. I'm like, yeah, I anchor myself, on good. They're good Christian people, but those people are subject to change. Those people are subject to change. There is nothing saying that that person is going to be that kind of person their entire life, because so many people go from this awesome Christian person and flip and turn into, you can't anchor yourself on people. You only can anchor yourself on God. His promise was her only anchor. God's promise never changes. Mary was totally flexible and fluid in God's plan and His ideas and His life for her. And she said, you know what, not mine. I'm your servant. Whatever you say, that's what I'm doing. Whatever you say, that's what I'm doing. And that's what I want you to get. If you get nothing else from this entire message, get the fact that Mary was a servant and you should be too. That's not an easy life. That's not easy. If it was easy, like I said, we'd turn away. We'd go away from God. It's not easy, but God calls us to that. Because that's the only way we can be made strong. That's the only way we can be made strong. Stepping out of your comfort zone is the only way you can grow. If I take the easy path everywhere in life, I never have to grow. I never get any stronger. I'm just here all the time. It's just me. But if I take the really hard path, I got to hack all these bushes up, my arm's going to be like ripped. I'm going to be, yeah, That's what Jesus does. And what I love about Mary's story is that her whole plan was to marry Joseph and to have kids, right? So she did what God asked her to do, to raise the Messiah, and she still got to marry Joseph. And she still got to have kids. She still got to have that family. She just got the king of the world in it too.
Yep.
Her plans weren't bad, but God had different plans. But that doesn't mean He's like, okay, you get nothing that you want. He gives you good things. If the desires of your heart line up with Him, He's going to give them to you, man. He's going to give them to you. They're good things. But she had to be willing to go into the dark first. She had to let the faith be over her future. She said, okay, this is what I really want. These are the desires of my heart, but I'm going to let you have them. Give me your will. And she got way better than she expected. Because I'm sure Jesus was a sassy little kid, but I'm sure He's also that kind of kid that comes and rubs your feet for no reason, washes your feet probably for no reason. That's what Jesus was. That's the kind of kid she got. She literally got the king of the world. How cool is that, She also got her name to be famous for 2,000 plus years because she did what God was telling her to do. She went into the dark. She wasn't afraid of it. Where are you? Where are you with God? Where is it? What is God calling you to do? Where is God calling you to go? And are you listening to it? Or are you saying, God, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I want to do my thing that I do. So I want you guys to say these points with me, okay? So I'll say it first, and you guys can say it after. So point number 1 is our plan is not the same as God's plan, okay? So 1, 2, 3. Ready? Our plan is not the same as God's plan. Okay? Point number 2. Continue to trust in God even when it doesn't make sense to me. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Continue to trust in God even when it doesn't make sense to me. And point number 3. God's promise never changes.
God's promise never changes.
There you go. Okay. Worship team, you can come up here. This whole series has been the Faith Over series. Faith over fear, faith over familiar, faith over future. Faith over everything, literally everything. Where are you? And where's your relationship with God? And are you being His servant, or are you leading your life and saying, okay, when I get to church, I'll serve you? Where are you at? Where are you at? Are you following God's promise? Are you doing what He's asked you to do? I want you to spend this first song really asking yourself that question and saying, hey, where am I? Where am I? What can I do? Where are you? He'll tell you. He'll tell you. You just gotta ask Him. Ask and you shall receive. He wants you. He wants you tonight. He wants you. He wants you to be in His arsenal. He wants you to be known 2,000 years from now. He wants you. He can do amazing things for you, but you have to let Him. Because if you're saying, my plan, not yours, you're never going to get His plan. So your plan is just going to suck. That's the truth. Your plan is just going to suck. God has awesome plans for each and every one of you. But you got to want Him too. And you got to let Him work in you. So we're going to go into a time of worship. And you guys can use this whole room. Just use it and surrender your life to God because He wants you. He's here.